So, how you all are doing? Well, alive and kicking. How is the preparation going on? You all have got the soft copy of quick revision notes, right? You haven't got the quick revision note. In which group you are? There are so many Telegram groups. All right, I'll share it in the relevant group. So remember, from that quick revision note, you will be getting easily around 70 questions or so, including both business economics and BCK. But that is not a replacement for class notes. All right. So you refer the quick revision note. Any pointers you're getting stuck, you can refer it from the class notes. All right. So let's begin. We'll begin. Chapter 1 is quite easy. Capitalist model, socialist model, and mixed economic model. Fine. So that's not a problem. Only thing that you need to pay attention in that model is that pragmatic and normative approach. So as I've told you, when any suggestions are given, any opinions are given, it is known as a pragmatic, it is known as a normative one. Suggestions are given, any opinions are given. But if there is only a relationship between cause and effect stated, any law stated, or let's say if suppose inflation rises, the cost of living increases, this is a factual statement. So any kind of factual statement without any opinion or suggestions are considered as pragmatic, practical, or positive. They all interchangeably, these things are used: pragmatic, positive, all right, and are practical. So now the biggest problem I find that most students get from chapter number 2, and especially from elasticity of demand, right? So elasticity is clear, not clear. All right. So remember, as I've told you, from elasticity, if you take into consideration chapter 2, chapter 3, and chapter 4, from elasticity alone, around 12 questions you will get. All right, all 3 chapters, because we have seen elasticity concept comes to the concept of revenue as well. So what is elasticity of demand? First of all, elasticity of demand is related to the response of the consumers. When we are talking about demand, it is the response of the consumers. When you're talking about supply, it is the response of the seller. You have to just interchange it. So elasticity could be due to anything, but if they do not mention anything, it could be a price elasticity of demand, it could be income elasticity of demand, it could be cross elasticity of demand. All right. If nothing is mentioned in the question, then you will always consider what? Price elasticity. All right, because the law of demand talks about price and quantity demanded. It doesn't talk about income. It doesn't talk about the price of other factors, despite the fact that other factors also will affect the demand for any particular commodity. And also remember the concept with regard to expansion and contraction and increase and decrease. So, if there is a situation when there is a movement along the demand curve, now this movement is due to the change in the price. क्या हुआ हेलो हेलो नहीं आ रहा कुछ भी अभी हेलो नहीं हेलो बहुत धीरे है ठीक तो आ रहा था साउंड क्या प्रॉब्लम था हेलो हाँ फाइन अभी ठीक है am I not audible at the back audible no not audible now अभी भी नहीं now audible not now audible नहीं पीछे नहीं आ रहा पीछे नहीं आ रहा, नहीं आ रहा पीछे, पीछे हाँ इनमें इंक्रीज कर देता. ऑडिबल नाउ. यहाँ पर आ रहा तेरे को, वहां पे हो सकता है स्पीकर नहीं है ना. हेलो. अरे तू जाके देख एक बार पीछे आ रहा है क्या. Alright, if there is a change in price, alright, P0 to P1 or P1 to P0 due to which there is a change in quantity demanded, we call it expansion and contraction. Now remember the movement also, because when the price increases, quantity demanded decreases, so you move up the slope of the demand curve. Moving up the slope of the demand curve means quantity demanded has fallen down. And when the price decreases, you move down the slope, that leads to expansion. So this up and down questions are also very important. Direction they keep asking. Technology stops functioning the moment I am there. ठीक. हेलो. नहीं आ रहा, कुछ भी नहीं आ रहा अब तो. हेलो. 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 हाँ ठीक है. हाँ फाइन. बस बस ठीक. फाइन फाइन. So the up, quite now please, up and down is very important. And this, as I've told you, this is also known as expansion and contraction. But if there is a change in other factors, change in other factors could be anything. Even weather changes can increase or decrease the demand for anything. So in that case, you move right or left on the demand curve. A rightward shift in the demand curve will lead to increase in demand. Price remains constant here, and leftward shift will lead to decrease in demand. Now, with regard to elasticity of demand, that I've told you, very important. In case of elasticity of demand, you have to, there are 5 situations that you have to keep in mind. All right. For first one is E equals to 1. As I've told you, elasticity is nothing but the responsiveness of the consumer with regard to anything. If nothing is mentioned, it's price that we have taken first in the first instance. So in this case, when E is equals to 1, the response of the consumer is very similar to the change in the price. It means if there is an increase or decrease in price, let's say by 10%, then quantity demanded will also increase or decrease by nearly the same margin. All right, 10% only. So response of the consumer, as I've told you, this is the change. This is the change and this is the response. Response is similar to the price change. Right. So we say this is unitary elastic demand. Clear. When we have E greater than 1, in which case E greater than 1, they always ask one question. E greater than 1 is with regard to which commodity? With regard to luxury goods. Why luxury goods? What is the reason for luxury goods E is greater than 1 always? Because luxury goods are sold at a very high price. All right, luxury goods are sold at a very high price, so even a small percentage increase in price will completely destroy consumers' budget. You wanted to buy something for 10 lakh rupees and there is a 10% increase. It means you have to spend 1 lakh rupees extra. So luxury goods, people are very, very volatile. And why? For the second reason why they are volatile, because these are what? Non-necessary goods, non-essential. Now heaven is going to fall if I don't buy an iPhone right now. Will I die? It's not a medicine. No heaven is going to fall if you don't buy gold jewelry right now or a diamond necklace right now. You can wait. All right. And that's why when the price increases, let's say by 10%, it will lead to disastrous consequences on consumers' budget. So most of the consumers, they will prefer to not buy. And as a result, the market demand, that is quantity demanded, may fall down by 15, 20, 30, 40, 50%. Clear? So 20, 30%, whatever it is. This is the upside. What is the downside? You wanted to buy a luxury goods, but you wanted to buy it, let's say, a month later. Many people, they plan to buy. It's not like one day you'll sleep at night and next morning you'll wake up, chalo buy karega luxury good. कभी होता क्या है सर? एप्पल तो नहीं है, luxury good है. So you plan to buy luxury goods and you are planning to buy, you have been collecting money. Say in the month of after my foundation examination, I'll buy a Rolex watch. But suddenly the price falls down by 10%. Now a Rolex watch is available at 20, 30 lakh rupees. 10% discount, it means you are going to save 2 lakh rupees. Don't you think you will prefer to buy right now? I'm not saying that everybody will buy. Those who are planning to buy it after 1 or 2 months, they will buy right now. Correct? And as a result, the quantity demanded will increase significantly. The market demand will increase by 20, 30, 40% or even more than that. Clear? So consumers are highly responsive to price change in case of luxury goods. Then we have E less than 1. In case of E less than 1, we say consumers are less responsive. Easy way to remember: more than 1, more responsive; less than 1, less responsive; equals to 1, equally responsive. So less than 1, it means what? If suppose price increase or decrease by, let's say, 20%, the quantity demanded will increase or decrease, let's say, by 5%, 6%, 7%. Why? It may happen due to many reasons. Maybe you love Maggie, correct? Tell me one thing, logically, if Nestle increases the price of Maggie by 20%, 15 rupees may 18 rupees mein bechega. Do you think the demand for Maggie will fall down by 40, 50%? People will say Maggie hai, main khayega. Correct? So you are attracted to those goods, and this attraction will not lead you, not allow you to decrease your demand by that much. So Nestle knows that if I increase the price of Maggie by 10%, the demand may fall down by 2 or 3%. Still, I will end up making 7% extra revenue. Correct? Still, so due to this reason, it can happen. Then we'll say, sir, what about price decrease? People will buy more of it. So quantity demanded should increase by larger amount. No. Let's see, when you are attracted to any particular commodity, you are already consuming maximum of it. No. अभी आपको 20 मैगी खा रहा एक हफ्ते में, 50 खाएगा क्या? You are already consuming to the maximum level. If discount is given, you may buy little extra, but not much. This is also found in case of durable goods. If suppose I have purchased a bed at 50,000 rupees. Madhu! Okay. The sound was rising faster than Tata Motors. All right. Now, what I was saying. So, you wanted to buy a bed, you bought a bed, 50,000 rupees. Next day, you got a discount of 20%. The same bed is available at 40,000 rupees. Will you buy another bed? Huh? कहाँ रखेगा छत पे? Huh? You are not going to buy. You bought an AC and suddenly you found a discount of 50% going on. You will only regret, but you cannot do anything about it. You will not buy another one. Correct? For durable goods have longevity. Once you purchase, you are not going to purchase it every year. Not even every 4 or 5 years. You may buy it after 10, 15, 20 years. So even when the price falls down, the demand is not going to increase by much. Why? Because those who have already purchased, they will not become a new customer. Only those who are waiting, they will buy. So price may fall down by 20 or 30%, but the demand may increase by 5%. For durable goods also, E will be less than 1. All right. And for other reasons, I've told you, if any commodity has less number of substitutes available, what you do? You have no option. I've told you, give an example. No, you wanted to buy a refrigerator. Let's say in 1980s, how many companies were selling refrigerators in India? 2 companies. You don't like both, don't buy. Today, if I want to buy a refrigerator, I get confused. इतना ब्रांड है, एक एक कंपनी is selling 20, 20, 30, 30 brands. So I have to perform a research. 3 दिन तो रिसर्च लगाएगा, ये लीटर वो लीटर, ये डिफ्रॉस्ट वो डिफ्रॉस्ट. So I have many choices available. When I have many choices available, it means I'll be very volatile. Correct? I can easily jump from one brand to another. But during that time, only 2 companies were selling. ठंडा पानी पीने का है तो ये खरीदो या ये खरीदो या गर्म पानी. You don't have a choice. So demand will be inelastic. Right? So next comes E equals to 0. Now when E will be equals to 0? When customers have no say. When the price increases or decreases by any percentage, doesn't matter. But the quantity demanded do not change. Necessary goods it happens. Correct? So consumers are not at all responsive in this case. Clear? And then you have E equals to infinite. E equals to infinite, it means the other way around, that price remains constant, but still the demand is increasing or decreasing. It means demand is increasing or decreasing due to factors other than price. It could be anything. Price of petrol increases, demand for petrol car will fall down. Maruti is selling the car at the same price, but still demand is falling down. Why? Because the price of petrol has increased. It could be weather condition. See, winter is arriving. Winter has come. So, winter, demand for cold drinks will go down. Demand for ice cream will go down. So, you are not buying ice cream. Why? Have they increased the price? No. Because it's cold and you have foundation examination. So, you have to be careful. People will not buy it. People will buy in lesser numbers. Many people will not buy. So, in this case, it could be any commodity. It could be any factor. You saw an advertisement. Virat Kohli is consuming a chips. You say, maybe lega. The price of the chips is same, but still people are going to buy because Team India is consuming that chips. So this is also factors other than price. So here it could be any commodity. Keep asking me, sir, on commodity. It could be any commodity, but the factor is not the price. All right. Then we come to what is known as other factors that that can affect demand. In that case, what we have taken other factors may. One more thing I forgot to mention, that they keep asking it with regard to price effect equals to substitution effect plus income effect. Please, very, very important. Almost every time they keep asking. Almost every time. Wherever I've made you write also, put a star mark when I gave those notes. So what does it mean? It means this is the fundamental reason why the demand curve will slow downwards. Why does demand curve will slow? Now, what is the meaning of this thing? I explained the meaning as well. So let's say A and B are 2 commodities We have very similar commodities. A is sold at rupees 10 and B is sold at rupees 8. So people will mostly buy B, correct? But what if price of A falls down to rupees 5? What will happen? Now if you consume B, you are losing 3 rupees, isn't it? Previously when you are consuming B, you are saving 2 rupees because A is available at 10 and B is available at 8. But if you stick to B right now, what will happen? You don't have to spend anything extra, but you can save 3 rupees if you switch from B to A. So what happens here? Due to fall in the price of A, there is an income effect upon you. Because I've told you that when price increases or decreases, it affects the real income of the consumer, isn't it? Price of petrol was available at 75, now it's available at more than 100. It means it has increased by 50%. Have your income increased by 50%? No. It means to buy the same quantity of petrol, you have to spend more amount of money. So don't you think inflation is stealing away money from your income? It means your purchasing power is falling down. But there is no substitute for petrol. We have found now that substitute for petrol is electricity. Electric vehicle demand is going up. Correct. So in the same way, if I stick to B, my income effect will be minus 3 rupees. I'm losing with every 1 unit I consume. I'm losing 3 rupees that I would have saved had I substituted from B to A. So in order to protect my income from falling down, I will do what? I will decrease the consumption of B and increase the consumption of A. It means I will substitute A with B. So this will lead to substitution effect. And as a result, the demand for those goods which is sold at a higher price will come down, and demand for those goods which is sold at a lower price will go up, making the demand curve slope downwards. So if they ask you what is the fundamental reason for demand curves to slope downwards, it is the price effect, which is the combination of income effect and substitution effect. Clear? And exception to the law of demand, I've told you, always they ask you one question, aega hi aega. 3 exceptions I've mentioned. What are those 3 exceptions? First of all, exception means what? Law of demand is violated. Law of demand says price increases and quantity demanded decreases when this relationship becomes positive. That is, price increases and quantity demanded also increase. Then you get an upward sloping demand curve which slopes upward from left to right. Left to right sab hai, whether it's downward left to right or upward left to right. So you don't have to be confused with that. It's always left to right, or whether it's upward or downward. So the demand curve will become like this. This is a violation to the law of demand. First, it happens in case of what goods? Luxury goods. But I've told you, luxury goods do not violate the law of demand, because the market is never in violation. It is the individual which is in violation. You tell me, no, if suppose the price of iPhones fall down from 1,50,000 to only 80,000. All right, price of iPhone falls down from 1,50,000 to 80,000. Will its demand fall? No, demand will increase. So many of the people will have an iPhone. So what? Then there is no violation. So where is the violation? Violation will be in case of a small group of people who used to buy iPhone because they were thinking about status. Everybody buy from for status, but when everybody is having an iPhone, then those people will not find status in it. People will find status, but those people, they will not find status. So what they will do? They will not buy it. But how many people like those are there in any country? Less than 1%. Correct? Less than 1%. Can they move the market? No. Aam Aadmi, Janta, masses move the market. Mango Man, Aam Aadmi. They move the market. Rich people do not move the market. All right. Rich people do not. अभी मुकेश अंबानी जो शैम्पू खरीदता वो कितना लोग खरीदता, आप बताओ? आप खरीदता, मैं खरीदता नहीं. One bottle cost 30, 40, 50,000 rupees. Waste of money. But for him, it's like he'll sneeze and he'll make more money before he completes his sneezing. So for him, it's not a matter. So how many buyers of those kind of shampoos will be there in the country? In any country? Maybe 200. But if I talk about Head and Shoulders, how many people are buying? Even a rickshaw wala is buying a 1 rupee Head and Shoulders sachet. Correct? Alright. So they can move the market, rich people cannot. So if Mukesh Ambani travels in a Mercedes Benz and Mercedes Benz decreases the price, many people are having Mercedes Benz, he will buy it? No. So the market demand may increase by, let's say, 20,000, but it will fall down by 100. So of course market is not an exception, those the people are at exception. We call it as Veblen effect, prestige good effect, snob effect, or conspicuous consumption. These are the 4 terms they frequently use. Then next violation was in case of given goods. Now here they try to create a confusion. What confusion? With regard to inferior goods and given goods. Now remember, inferior goods will not violate the law of demand. But those inferior goods which violate the law of demand, they are known as given good. Alright. So inferior good will not violate. If the price increases, demand will fall down. If the price decreases, demand will go up. So I've told you the example of bread and meat. In 18th century England, it was found that the price of low quality bread was falling and still people were buying more of it. Why? Because there was no substitute for low quality bread was available. Now a household have allocated a fixed sum of money that they were spending on meat and bread. When the price of bread increases, if they give up large quantity of bread, they will not be able to buy even a small amount of meat. So the calorific consumption will not be high. They will starve. But if they give up just small amount of meat, because meat is sold at a high price, they will be able to save chunk of money and they will be able to buy more bread. So as a result, when the price of low quality bread was increasing, people started to give up small quantity of high price item like meat in order to save some money and increase the consumption of bread. And third was, what was the third exception? Speculative goods. Speculative goods, when the price increases, demand will increase. I've told you Tata Motors price increase हो रहा है. And I expect it to reach to 1000 level easily in the next 1.5 to 2 years. Speculation hai. I may be wrong, I may be right. But there is a reason why I'm speculating this. So when the price of gold or anything is constantly increasing, people will expect the price to continue to rise. This is known as trend analysis. In the stock market, we say trend is your friend. So even when the price is rising, I will still buy. Why? Because my expectation, this is my expectation, is that the price will increase even further. So even with the rising price, I'm not decreasing the demand, I'm increasing the demand. Am I not violating the law of demand? Yes, I'm violating the law of demand. But if suppose the share price of any commodity is falling down, this is the way it's going. Now, what is the probability? What will happen in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 months? Most of the people will say that it will continue to fall, right? Why they can say that? Because the pattern is there. Past pattern is there. Again, trend is down. So will you buy? When you know that even if you buy at a lower price, the price may further go down below your average. So it means with the fall in price, the demand is also falling. People don't want to buy. So this is the next violation to the law of demand. Clear? Next comes methods. I've told you. Proportionate method is clear. Percentage change in quantity demanded divided by percentage change in price. And remember the formula elasticity of demand, Q0 minus Q1 divided by Q0 into P0 divided by P0 minus P1. This was, it is the outlay method that you have to be very careful about. Because outlay method, we try to figure out what? The relationship between the price of the good and total expenditure of the consumer. But we have to come to the conclusion by keeping in mind what? The elasticity of demand. So there were three situations I've mentioned. First, demand is elastic. E is equals to 1. And let's say price increases by 10%. So it means for E equals to 1 to get, you have to have demand to fall down by 10%. So quantity demanded also falls down by 10%. Now what I explained you, of course here consumption is not the concern. Here the concern is what happens to my expenditure. When the burden on me was increased by 10% and I decrease my consumption by 10%, don't you think I have neutralized the burden? I'm consuming less, but don't you think by sacrificing 10% I have neutralized the burden of rise in price? It's an easy way to remember. Somebody kept 10 kilograms on my right shoulder, I took away 10 from my left. What is my weight? My weight is same as before. So in this case, the expenditure will remain constant. Correct? All right. And if price decreases by 10%, you got a discount of 10%. It means you are saving 10%. With that 10% that you're saving, can you buy something extra? Yes. How much extra? Around 10% extra. So you increase the consumption by 10%, but this 10% extra that you are buying, are you buying from additional money out of your pocket? No, I'm saving 10% because the price discount is 10% is going on. With that 10%, I'm buying 10% extra. I'm buying more, but I'm spending the same amount of money. Correct? So in this case also, the expenditure remains constant. So it means whether the price increases or decreases, the total expenditure of the consumer remain constant. Clear hai? When E is greater than 1, when E is greater than 1, what happens then? When E is greater than 1, it means, let's say again, if the price increases by 10%, the burden that is falling on me, this is the burden that is falling on me is by 10%. But I decrease my consumption by 20%, 30%, 40%. Of course, I'm again consuming less. But don't you think if I would have decreased my consumption just by 10%, I would have neutralized the effect of increase in price? But what I'm doing, I am decreasing by 10% plus 10% extra. I'm consuming less. But don't you think I'm also saving? Correct or not? Alright. So here the consumption is decreasing by 20%, but the burden is increasing by 10%. It means expenditure will fall. Somebody kept 10 kilograms on my right shoulder, that is the price rise. I took away 20 from my left shoulder. Am I 10 kilograms heavier or lighter? I am lighter. So I have decreased my expenditure. And other way around, when the price falls down by 10%, this happens during the big billion day great Indian festival. What happens? You get 50% discount. Correct? The company is selling you not below cost. The company is selling you with a small margin. But if I'm that seller, I know that if I give you a discount of 50%, my sales will increase by 450%. Will I make more money or less money? More money. So that's why I'll give you discount. All right, Black Friday aane wala US mein. You'll find that Apple gives discount of 80% on their product. 80%. बोला सर लॉस में बेच रहा है. लॉस में कंपनी नहीं बेचेगा, पेरेंट नहीं है, कंपनी है. सो लॉस में कुछ नहीं बेचता. But Apple knows that by giving a discount of 80%, my sales in that month will increase by 1000 to 2000%. So still I'll be making hell lot of money. So you got a discount of 10%, but you will buy 20% extra. Now when the price fell down by 10%, you are saving only 10% now. With that 10%, you can buy 10% extra. Can you buy 20% extra? So it means that 10% above the discounted price you are buying. So are you spending more money or less money? You're spending more money. So here expenditure increases. Easy way to remember, when E is greater than 1, price and expenditure move in opposite direction. They have inverse relation. And the third one is E less than 1. When E is less than 1, then what is the situation? Companies don't like to give you a discount when E is less than 1. They will try to always increase the price. Why? Because companies, if they give you a discount of 20%, you're saving 20%, but you will buy only 10% extra. So you are buying extra, you're consuming extra, but you're saving 10% extra as well. Common man who doesn't have the concept of elasticity, you ask him, you are buying, if I'm buying more than what I used to buy, am I spending more money or less money? He will say more money. But here, am I spending more money or less money? I'm spending less money. I'm saving more. And from that saving, only half of that saving I'm buying extra, half of the saving I'm taking back home. So isn't it that my total expenditure is going to fall despite I'm consuming more? So do you think companies will give you discount when E is less than 1? No. When E is less than 1, companies will increase the price, because they know that if they increase the price, the quantity demanded will fall down by 10%. Their market share is going to fall. Less number of units sold. But I have increased the price by 20%. So it means the burden that is falling upon the consumer is 20%. He must reduce the consumption by 20% to neutralize the burden. But is he able to reduce by 20%? No, he is only reducing it by 10%. So he is consuming less, but he is spending more. So in this case, what happens? Total expenditure increases. So here you see, price decreases, total expenditure decreases, price increases, total expenditure increases. So price and total expenditure, they move in the same direction. They have positive relation when E is less than 1. So quick revision note. I'll share it with you, dear. Everyone, don't worry. I'll share it. Now, next. This was the outlay method. Now, if we connect this outlay method to the concept of a revenue, I've told you. Revenue, let me connect it there. Then we'll go further into other. All right. So, when we drew, we measured it. If you look at the table that I had given you, if suppose this is the price and this is the quantity demanded, units sold, this is your total revenue, this is your marginal revenue, and this is your average revenue. Correct? When the price was 10 and there was no quantity demanded and everything was 0, oh, what the hell happened? Just hold on. How to undo? Undo button is not here. Anyways, why it disappear? I don't know. So this was with quantity, this was with TR, MR, and AR. So when consumption is 0, everything is 0. Then I reduced the price to 9 and I found out that 2 units were demanded. So my total revenue increased to 18. And what is my marginal revenue? Is 9, because 18 minus 0 divided by 2 minus 0, change in TR by change in quantity. And average revenue is TR by quantity. So 9 also. So MR and AR, they start from the same point. Now I decrease the price further and quantity demanded increases to 3. All right. So my total revenue is 24. Now what is my marginal revenue? 24 minus 18 divided by 3 minus 2. So that will be 6. Correct. All right. And marginal, sorry, 6 over here. Yeah. And margin average revenue will be 24. No. 2, 3. That is 6 here. And TR by this one 24 by 3 is 8. So now you see they MR and AR, they began from the same point, but now they have started to diverge. But still MR is positive. And what I have explained you with regard to MR and TR, or MC and TC, or MP and TP, total is always a summation of marginal. Correct? Total is always a summation of marginal. It means if the marginal is positive, total will never be falling. It will always increase because MR is adding a positive value to the TR. Correct? 18 plus 6 is 24 here, you see. So what I found here is that with the decrease in price, the total revenue of the seller has increased. Now remember here why I am connecting and taking it after demand. Simple reason, consumers demand, consumers expenditure is directly related to sellers revenue. How much ever I'll spend, that much ever they will earn. No. So if the sellers are earning more revenue, it means, can I say consumers is spending more money? Correct. So in which case price falls. Here if the price is falling and revenue is increasing, it means, can I also say price is falling, total expenditure of the consumer is increasing? It means in which case price falls and total expenditure increases. E greater than 1 or less than 1? E greater than 1. So here E must be greater than 1. Correct. I decrease the price further to 7 rupees and quantity increases to 4. So my total revenue is 28. And what is my marginal revenue? Now 4. So still the marginal revenue is positive. That's why TR is increasing. And average revenue is always equals to price. Correct. So it will be 7 here. 28 by 4 is 7. So can I say decrease in price has led to increase in total revenue, or decrease in price has led to increase in total expenditure? So again price is falling down, expenditure is increasing, that's why total revenue of the seller is increasing. So again E is greater than 1. When I reduce the price to 6, quantity increases to 5. So this is 30. Now my MR is 2. So again total revenue is increasing by 2 rupees because MR is 2. Here you have 6 as AR. So in this case also, decrease in price, increase in total revenue. Can I say decrease in price and increase in total expenditure? Correct or not? So it means still what is E equals to 1. All right. I decrease the price further from 6 to 5 and it is 30. Now my total revenue is not increasing. So it means my marginal revenue is 0. Average cannot be 0. So here it will be 5. So can I say from this point to this point, up till this point, price was falling down and total revenue was increasing? Or can I say total revenue was increasing because total expenditure of the consumer was increasing? And if I connect price falls and total expenditure increases, you will get what? E greater than 1. So here I have E greater than 1. Then in the next case, in this zone, what is happening? Price is decreasing, but total revenue is constant. Can I also say total expenditure is constant? It is not changing. So when do you think when the price decreases but total expenditure do not change? That is E equals to 1. So here can I write E equals to 1? Alright. And in the third scenario, when I reduce the price further to 4 rupees, you see, यहाँ पे 30 क्यों लिखा हुआ है, यहाँ पे 6 आएगा ना. The quantity demanded increases to 7. But this increase in 7, will it give me more revenue or less revenue? 28. So now my marginal revenue is negative, and we know TR is summation of MR. So when MR becomes negative, can TR increase? No, TR will decrease. Average cannot be negative. Now in this case, what has happened? From here to here, can I say that price decreased, but total revenue also decreased? Sorry, total revenue also decreased. So can I say total revenue, if sellers are earning less, it means our consumer is spending more? No, consumers are spending less, total expenditure falls down. So price and total expenditure, they move in the same direction, in which case E is less than 1. So here you have E less than 1. Correct? Alright. Now when I plot it into a diagram, what did I get? So here is the revenue, here is the quantity, again revenue, quantity. So MR and AR began from the same point. This is your AR, this is your MR, and this is your TR. Now can I say here that when MR is above the x-axis, it means MR is positive. Until the time MR is positive, TR is going to increase. So TR is increasing all the time. So can I say that on this zone E is greater than 1, and here also E is greater than 1? Correct. At this point MR is 0. Correct. MR is 0, it means TR is not going to increase. MR 0, TR cannot be 0, no. TR is not increasing. So it means it is at the maximum point here. You see, TR is at maximum point when MR is 0 and TR tapers off at this point. So here E is equals to 1, and here also E is equals to 1. But at this point you see TR is falling down. Now why TR is falling down? Because MR has become negative. Correct. So when MR has become negative, what is the value of E? Value of E is less than 1. So you get the value here, E less than 1. Now from the 4 points that I've mentioned, they always ask you one question. There has never been an examination from these 4 points, they have never asked you a question. Can you one answer? What were those 4 points? First, from the diagram only we'll see that when TR is increasing, it means MR is positive and AR is always positive, but they both are falling, but they remain positive. When TR is maximum, MR is 0, whether you look at the diagram or you look at the table. MR is 0. At this point E is equals to 1 and AR is still falling. When TR is begins to fall down, it means MR is negative and still AR and AR both are falling. Clear? AR cannot be negative. So E is less than 1 here. And I've also made you write one point that AR curve is also known as the demand curve. Why demand curve? Because demand consists of two things, that is the willingness of the consumer and the ability to pay. Correct. then the ability to pay depends upon what? Price. And if the price changes, don't you think my willingness will also change? Correct? I desire to buy any commodity, not looking at only the marginal utility that gives the willingness, but also looking at the ability to pay, that is the price of the commodity. And when the price increases or decreases, I may go into a zone wherein I don't have any consumer surplus, so I'll not want to buy, or I'll want to buy less quantity. And we know that price is always equals to AR, because to get TR we wrote P into Q, and to go get AR we wrote TR by Q. Now this TR can be written as P into Q divided by Q. When I cancel QQ, then you have AR equals to price, and price will affect the demand for any particular good. That's why AR curve is also known as the demand curve. All right, clear? No problem. Then we move to what is known as income elasticity of demand. Arc elasticity is easy, no? Arc and point. When there is a big change, we use arc method. When there is a small percentage wise, don't get confused. Because if suppose the price of something was 1 lakh rupees and it increases to 1,05,000, this is not a big change. Why? Because the change is only 5%. Should we apply arc method here? No. We apply proportionate method, point method. But because the values sometimes distort, confuse you. But if suppose the price of something is rupees 2 and then the price increases to rupees 3, now if you look at the absolute value, it is nothing. Correct or not? Right or wrong? It is nothing, but in percentage terms, don't you think it is 50% increase? Right or wrong? So in this case, you use arc method. So don't get confused with the values. Always think here in percentage. Always think in percentage. So when the big change is there, big percentage change, either in price or in quantity, same logic. We use arc method, 30, 40, 50% change. Otherwise, we use point method. To solve the problem, we apply proportionate method formula. And what was the formula for arc? Q0 minus Q1 divided by Q0 plus Q1 into P0 plus P1 divided by P0 minus P1. Correct? And point method, lower segment of the demand curve by upper segment. They frequently ask this question that at this point E will be equals to infinite. Here E greater than 1. Here E equals to 1 midpoint. Here E less than 1. And here E equals to 0. Easy questions are. Yes, sir. Right. Income elasticity of demand. Two questions you can easily expect from here. Income elasticity of demand. Under income elasticity of demand, categorization have to be made. Alright. We say for normal goods, when you're talking about, usually we have positive income elasticity. First of all, positive income elasticity कहाँ होता? एक तो question positive और negative से भी पूछ सकता है. Where do you get positive income elasticity of demand? Positive you get in case of normal goods, in case of luxury goods also. Meaning what? Income increases, income is denoted by Y. Demand will also increase. Alright. Demand will also increase. For normal goods, it is more or less equals to 1. For luxury goods, it is greater than 1. Because we are attracted to the luxury goods. Because when our income increases, you will not think about buying more breads and more potatoes and more tomatoes. Correct? Automatically the consumption will increase. Correct? Let's say your income, a family whose income increases, don't you think they will add one more item in the breakfast, one more item in the lunch and dinner? They'll go out and eat more in the restaurants. they will go for more entertainment service. पहले Netflix था, अभी Hotstar भी ले लेगा. These are all considered as normal. You don't dream about it. अभी मेरे को promotion मिलेगा, मैं Hotstar में. Automatically हो जाती है. Because people want to natural progression. You dream about, I'll buy a Rolex watch. I'll buy a Mercedes Benz. I'll buy a gold jewelry. Alright, Valentine's Day है अभी नहीं है. Hi. After your examination. So people plan to buy these things. So when your income increases, you are attracted to luxury goods. Due to this attraction, you become, attraction creates what? Stupidity. You will spend more money on a commodity whose worth is only an illusion. And because of this illusion, people are attracted to it. And so if their income increases by this much, the demand will increase by a greater proportion for luxury goods. And likewise, when income falls down, people will become rational then, because the first thing they will give up is luxury goods. COVID आ गया, अभी नहीं आया, आया था. People, many of the people, their income suddenly came down. Many of the companies who are paying half the salary, income fell down. Did they stop eating? Did they stop bathing? चाय पीना बंद कर दिया? नहीं. But people postponed buying a car, postponed buying a new phone. So these things are given up quickly when the income falls. So up or down, the demand will be very volatile. So in case of both price elasticity of demand and income elasticity of demand, the relationship only is different, but the elasticity is same. So price increases, quantity demanded will increase by a big margin, E greater than 1. Income increases, quantity demanded will increase by a big margin. यहाँ पे सिर्फ increase हो रहा, वहां decrease हो रहा, but both elasticity is greater than 1. Next, you have inferior goods. Only in this case, only and only in this case, you have negative income elasticity of demand. What are inferior goods? Any commodity which is of lower quality. You can buy a t-shirt from from a Shopper Stop or Amazon or Mintra, 400, 500, 700, 1000 rupees t-shirt. You can also buy a t-shirt, many a time फुटपाथ पे लगता है, buy 2 get 2 free, 500 rupees, 500 रुपए में 4 t-shirt लेके गया. Inferior good है. You can prefer to consume coffee in a cafe coffee day. You'll have to pay 100, 150 rupees for a coffee. You can prefer to have coffee also in a small store which is charging 7, 8, 10 rupees. Now tell me, when your income increases, will you go more often to cafe coffee day or more often to that small outlet? Small outlet. You are an exception then. This Bagar is an exception. There will always be an exception. Economic deal with human. Alright. So, alright, I am also in your category. I like street foods. So for me, it doesn't matter. Alright. So I don't like Starbucks cafe for which I have paid 500 rupees. Alright. मैं 20 रुपए का कॉफी पी के 480 रुपए का टाटा पावर का शेयर खरीद लेगा. That is better. So now, inferior goods, when your income increases, you will want to improve your standard of living. So you will buy better quality goods rather than inferior quality goods. So demand will fall down. And when your income decreases, you cannot afford better quality or superior quality of goods, not luxury goods, superior quality of goods. So the demand will increase. Only in case of inferior goods, you have negative income elasticity of demand. And in case of necessary goods, there is one thing that you have to keep in mind. What is that thing that you have to keep in mind? Whether it's a long run or short run related question. Because even in case of necessary goods, people make mistakes, as I've explained you. Many household you will find they have every 1 or 2 years they will throw away a chunk of medicine expire हो गया. क्यों expire हुआ? Why it has expired? Well, sir, medicine will expire. No, medicine will expire. But why did it expire with you? Because you bought more than what the doctor has prescribed. Now, why did you buy more than the doctor has prescribed? Do you think a poor man will do that? Huh? Do you think a poor man will do that? If the doctor writes him 10 tablets to consume, or let's say 8 tablets to consume, he goes to the medical shop, asks for 8 tablets. Medical store owner, they will want to sell more. Will say, I cannot cut it. He will say, I'll not buy. All right. Looking at the person, the medical owner, so shop owner will tell you, अच्छा गाड़ी से अच्छा लाख रुपए का बाइक में ये तो हो गया. 8 tablets, 10 tablets कटेंगे. बोला दे दो. That 2 tablets you are not going to consume. अच्छा बुखार ठीक हो गया, घर में पड़ा, चलो खाता है. You are not going to do it. So that will accumulate. If there are 4 or 5 members in the family, can you imagine how much everybody will fall sick twice in a year? होता है ना? Right? Antiviral problem, this and that. So you will accumulate. When you have more money, your income is increasing, you will not give importance to it. And you will buy extra. But later on, you will realize. Those who don't realize, they are fool, they are an exception. But rational person, because economics assume a person to be rational, economic laws are not applicable on irrational individual. You go to a drug addict and say that why you are consuming it, have food and less drugs. Bola, no, I'll have more drugs and less food. So irrational. So in this case, in the short run, people will make mistakes. But in the long run, they will realize that mistake. So I used to consume 10 tablets. My income has increased. I will buy 12 tablets. In the short run, the demand have increased. Why? Because I have more money. So E will be less than 1. It should be 0. So if my income increases by 10%, the demand for even necessary goods may increase by 1%, less than 1%. So E less than 1. But that 1% should also not increase. In the long run, I realize my mistake. I will not decrease my consumption to 0, but decrease my consumption to 10 units from 12 units. It means what I should be consuming, I should consume. I should not consume more than what the doctors have told me. So it means in this case, elasticity becomes 0. So in the short run, the demand is inelastic. In the long run, demand becomes perfectly inelastic. If they have not mentioned short run and long run, what you will mark? Short run. All right. Always mark inelastic if they have not mentioned the short or the long run. Clear? Next, cross elasticity of demand. In case of cross elasticity of demand, we compared the price of one commodity with the demand for other commodity. Now remember, in case of income, formula remains the same. Proportionate method, same thing, and arc method, same thing. Here also the same concept is there, but we will take on the x-axis the quantity of one particular commodity, on the y-axis the price of something else. So when we talk about complementary goods, what is the income elasticity? What is the cross elasticity of demand? Negative. Why? Because if the price of petrol increases, then what will happen? Demand for petrol car will fall down. Negative negative cross elasticity of demand, right? And vice versa, of course. When we talk about substitute goods, all right, substitute goods, there is a positive cross elasticity of demand. Meaning what? If Nike increases the price of its shoes, then what will happen? People will buy something else. People will buy Reebok. So increase in the price of Nike shoes will make the consumer shift from Nike to Reebok. So demand for Reebok will also fall down. If Nike gives discount, then what will happen? People who are buying Reebok, they will buy Nike now. So demand for Reebok will fall down. So there is a positive cross elasticity of demand. It means the price of one increases, the demand for other will also increase. If Coca-Cola increases the price from 20 rupees to 30 rupees, will you buy Coke? You'll buy Pepsi, demand for Pepsi increases. Correct. Then comes two goods which are close substitute. What is close substitute? Those commodities which are very similar, not perfectly similar, but very similar. Whether I buy a Lipton tea or a Tata tea, very similar. Correct. Whether I buy a hybrid tomato or a organic tomato, why tomato? Alright. So very similar product. In that case, or whether I buy a Nandini milk or a Amul milk, cow is the same. Not the same cow, but cow is cow. Alright. The milk. Do you think you will be able to figure out if I blindfold you and one glass of Nandini milk and one glass of Amul, ये Amul है, Amul. ये नंदिनी है, नंदिनी. कैसे पता रे? Fluke है ये. Alright. By fluke you may be correct, but you will not be able to find the difference. Try this at home. होता है ना? Don't try this at home. You will try this at home. You will not be able to tell the difference. So when two commodities are very close substitute, don't you think you will be very easily replace one with another? Correct or not? So it means, can I say the cross elasticity demand is very high or very low? Very high or very low? Very high. Quickly I'll replace one with another. I'll not have difficulty to jump from one brand to another brand. टाटा टी बढ़ गया, नहीं पिएगा, मामा का कंपनी नहीं है ना, लिप्टन पिएगा मैं. So what do you call in Kannada your mother's brother? Mama only, no? English people call mama means mom. Why you are laughing? Your name is Mama or what? So now what? So cross elastic demand will be very, very high. But what if two commodities are perfect substitute? What are perfect substitute, by the way? Perfect substitute are those goods which give exact same utility. Does this good exist? No, it doesn't exist. Then why do we study about it? Syllabus mein hai. That's not the reason. Perfect substitute will help us to determine the difference. If we don't have the benchmark, we'll not be able to find out the difference in the level of satisfaction you get from two different types of goods. So perfect substitutes are those goods which are exactly similar. They don't exist, but if they exist, as I've told you, you are buying two different goods which are perfect substitute. Now for perfect substitute, the price has to be same. Iska bhi 30 rupees, iska bhi 30 rupees. Now tell me, if I buy 10 units of X and 2 units of Y, or 2 units of X and 10 units of Y, or 6 units of X and 6 units of Y, in all these cases I am buying 12 units only, no? Correct? So it means I can infinitely replace one with another. I can go this way also, 0 here and 12 here, or 12 here and 0 here. Will my satisfaction change even by a bit? No. Why? Because these are perfect substitutes. So these can be substituted infinitely, and that's why E is infinite. How you can calculate E is infinite? You see, from here to here, what is the fall in the demand for X? Fall in the demand for X is by 80%. What is the change in the price of Y? Is there a change in price of Y? No, 0. Anything divided by 0 is infinite. Correct? Here from 2 to 10 you are increasing. Alright. So from 2 to 10, that is how much? 500%. But is there a change in price of X? No, 0. Again, you got infinite. Correct? So when two goods are close substitute, the cross elastic demand is very high. But when they are perfect substitute, the cross elastic demand is infinite. And when two, what happens? Clear? But when two goods are not related, example दिया था आपको, your mom ask you go and get Britannia cheese, the shopkeeper tells Britannia cheese नहीं, hair oil ले लो sir. Will you be willing to replace even one unit with the hair oil? अभी bread में cheese नहीं, hair oil लगा के खाएगा. So you will not be willing to replace even one unit of a hair oil, a cheese, with a hair oil. So when two goods are completely unrelated, you will not want to exchange. So E will become equals to 0. That was cross elasticity of demand. Formula again remains same. When you're talking about proportionate method, then elasticity demand Q0 minus Q1 divided by Q0. This is for good X, and P0 divided by P0 minus P1. This is for good Y. And when you're talking about arc method, then again the formula Q0 minus Q1 divided by Q0 plus Q1 into P0 plus P1 divided by P0 minus P1. This is again for good X. You have to take the quantity of one commodity and price of another commodity. Clear hai? All right. Then theory of consumer behavior. Right. What is utility? Who can tell me what is utility? Want satisfying power of any commodity is utility. All right. It is not the usefulness of commodity, but want satisfying power of that commodity. Utility are of three kinds. We have told you. Place utility, time utility, and form utility. Right. Utility can be classified or can be understood from two different perspectives. One is known as cardinal approach and another is known as ordinal approach. Under cardinal approach, you have two theories. One we have to study in detail. Two theories is law of equimarginal utility and law of diminishing marginal utility. And ordinal approach, iso utility curve or indifference curve. Now, what is the difference between cardinal and ordinal? Cardinal and ordinal. Cardinal considers that the want can be measured and quantified. Alfred Marshall. Alright, measured and quantified, but ordinal people guys say that it is not easy to measure satisfaction. And even if you measure your own satisfaction, you may be wrong. Why? I know I like tea more than coffee, but how much more than coffee I cannot say. If you ask me, if I tell you that I like tea 200% more than coffee, will I be able to prove to you through a numerical equation? The answer is no. So I may rank tea more than coffee, but I cannot say how much more or how much less. That's where ordinal is a better way to consider or look at utility compared to cardinal. Saying this, cardinal is not absolutely wrong, right? Because under law of diminishing marginal utility, what does it say? That as we consume more and more units of any particular commodity, it will give us less and less satisfaction. Don't you think that is true for everything? Alright, exceptions hai, but most of the thing it is true. You love ice cream, kitna khayega? After one, the second one will give you less and less satisfaction. And after 4 ice creams, somebody after 6, somebody after 10, everybody has a limit. But the moment you reach your limit, the MU of the product becomes 0. You will not want to consume it anymore at that point in time. So if I have to draw the TU and MU curve, this was the MU and this is your TU. You see, they begin from the same point, MU and TU, but the second unit I'll consume will give me less MU, but still MU is positive, so it's going to add positive value to TU. So what will happen? TU will increase to this point. I'll consume third unit, MU will fall, still MU is positive, I've told you TU is a summation of MU. So TU will again increase. This way I can continue to go MU, right, and TU increases. But at this point you see what is happening. MU becomes 0 and that's why TU doesn't increase anymore. It means you are completely satisfied. No rational person should go beyond this point. Why? Because nobody wants to be negatively satisfied. If you are forced to do it, होता ना, sometimes out of affection you'll say okay मैं खा लेगा. My father is always saying पागल हो जाएगा बुढ़ा रहे खा लिया, but you did not like it. So what will happen? MU will fall, negative हो जाएगा ये. It means TU is going to decrease. Alright. So from this diagram we can say when MU is falling but till the time it remains positive, TU is increasing. Alright. MU when it falls but it remains positive, TU will increase. When MU becomes 0, TU will be at the maximum point. This is known as the point of saturation. You are totally satisfied, completely satisfied. MU is 0, TU is maximum. Beyond this point, MU will become negative and TU begins to fall down. Clear hai? TU begins to fall down. You should not go beyond this point. And MU curve is also known as the demand curve of consumer, because MU gives you the willingness. Higher the MU, more you will buy. The more you will buy, the MU will continue to fall. Your willingness will continue to fall. The moment MU becomes 0, demand will cease to exist at that point in time. But law of diminishing marginal utility is not applicable to what? To hobbies, to money, alright, to addictive goods, cigarette, alcohol or drugs. In this case, it may not be applicable. Otherwise, in all the cases, it is applicable. Then we came to what is known as theory of consumer surplus and consumer equilibrium. What did I mention? What is consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is nothing but the difference between MU and price. MU will tell us how much we are willing to pay. Now, how much ever I am willing to pay, that depends on the utility of the commodity. No, if that commodity has a higher utility for me, I'll be willing to pay higher amount of money. I am willing to pay 80,000 for a commodity because I think I can derive 80,000 worth of satisfaction by consuming it. But when I went to the market, the commodity is available at rupees 70,000. So imagine, I was willing to anyways spend 80,000 because in my mind, the satisfaction is worth 80,000 I'm going to get. But now I'm paying only 70,000. So satisfaction mila 80 ka, payment hua 70 ka. Don't you think I'm at a surplus of 10,000 rupees? Correct or not? But if there is no difference between it, it means MU is equals to price. It means whatever I'm willing to pay, that much I pay. It means I'm at an equilibrium. MU lower than price, I'll not buy. Consumer will never want to be at a deficit. Because I'm willing to pay 1,000 rupees. Let's say I'm willing to pay 80,000 rupees. The goods now available at 90,000. Still I buy. I'm not at a deficit. Why? Because if I'm paying 90,000, I am in my mind increasing the utility of the commodity to be 90,000. So I'm still at consumer equilibrium. Clear? Hai? Then comes indifference curve. In case of indifference curve, we'll try to figure out that how by changing different combinations of two goods, we try to maintain the same level of satisfaction. Right. So if I take good X, good Y and marginal rate of substitution between Y and X, yes, not visible there, not on, alignment is not correct. Now tell me, just tell me. I can't hear you, dear. What is saying? ब्रीदर, मैराथन में क्या ब्रीदर रहे? किसी को देखा क्या मैराथन में रुकता? 5 minutes you can relax, nobody will go out of the class. 5 minutes. All right, let's continue. Somebody has asked, sir, what is the difference between luxury goods and superior goods? Superior goods are better quality of goods. All right. Luxury goods are those goods which have people buy because they get social status. Example, if I buy a basmati rice, it's not a luxury good. It's a better quality of good. Will not say roaming around with bags of basmati rice around take home like it. Luxury goods nahi hai. Superior quality of goods hai. Right? Clear. Now indifference curve analysis. Now you see, in case of indifference curve, what happened? Is it not on? You look here, no. Also, same notes are given in your book, Ray. Refer it. You don't have to write anything. So, good y, good x. If suppose I am, let's say the figure that I've taken from 12, right, in your book, no? 12 units of y and 1 unit of x. Now, the reason I am consuming 12 units of y is because y must be holding more importance for me. Correct. But despite this is an ordinal analysis, the concept of diminishing marginal utility will come here. It means if I keep consuming y more and more, its mu was higher, that's why I'm consuming more. But when I start consuming 12 units of y and only 1 unit of x, don't you think mu of y will fall down to bottom below mu of x? So what I'll do, I will want to sacrifice some units of y in order to buy some units of x, because I have limited income, I cannot increase both. So I give up 6 units minus 6 units to increase the consumption of x by 2 units. by 1 unit. So I'm substituting 6 units of y for 1 unit of x. So marginal rate of substitution, that which tells us how many units of one particular good are you giving up to increase the consumption of other by 1 unit. But don't you think mu of y would have fallen down big time because I'm consuming more of y? When I decrease its consumption, don't you think mu of y will increase? Because mu goes in both ways. If I consume more and more, mu will sink. The moment I start giving up, its importance will increase. So now marginal utility of y will increase and little bit marginal utility of x will decrease. But still, x has a higher utility than y. So still I want to give up, but I don't want to give up much now because the importance of y in my head has increased. So I give up only 2 to increase it to 3. So now I'm giving up 2 units of y in order to increase the consumption of x by 1 unit. Further, importance of y will increase and importance of x will decrease little bit. Then I'll be willing to give up only 1 unit of y to increase the consumption to 4. So now I'm sacrificing 1 unit of y for 1 unit of x. So marginal rate of substitution will always fall. The reason is law of diminishing marginal utility. When I'm already given up more, then I want to give up less. Why I want to give up less? Because when I've already given up more, its mu will increase, and that's why I want to give up less. And due to falling marginal rate of substitution, what will happen? The indifference curve will become convex to the origin. So it will be, of course, downward sloping, but it will be convex. Why? Because you see, I'm consuming 12 here and 2 units of x. Initially 1 unit of x. Now I give up 6 units here. I'm giving up last sum to increase it to 2. But to increase it by the same amount, that is to 3 of x, I'm giving up only 2 units now. And to increase it to 4, I'm giving up only 1 unit. Alright, this is x, good x, and this is good y. So it is downward sloping. Why? Because of inverse relationship between good x and good y. But it is convex to origin because of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Be careful what question they've asked. If they mention that why it is convex, then you will not say that more of one commodity increase in the consumption of one commodity lead to decrease in the consumption. No. You'll choose the option which says that MRS is diminishing. If they ask you why it is downward sloping, then you can choose that answer which says that increase in the consumption of one good will lead to decrease in consumption of another. Largely from the characteristic or the properties of indifference curve, you'll get the question. So properties, keep in mind that every point on the same indifference curve will give you same level of satisfaction but different combination of goods. Secondly, that a higher indifference curve located on a higher level will give you more satisfaction because what is the reason? Reason they can also ask you. Reason is because it contains more goods, and vice versa, lower indifference curve will give you lesser satisfaction. Two indifference curves should never intersect or touch one another. Why? Because when they intersect, two indifference curve should give you two different level of satisfaction. At the point of intersection, they'll start giving the same satisfaction. That's why it should never touch or intersect. That will be violation of assumption of indifference curve. An indifference curve will never touch either x or y axis. Why? Because you cannot compare when you're consuming only one good. When it touches y axis, you are consuming 0 unit of x. When it touches x axis, you are consuming 0 unit of y. So if there is nothing, I mean there is only one commodity, then what will I compare? So comparison goes away. That's why it will never touch either x or y axis by your assumptions. Clear? Then came two important things from where they also keep asking question. In case of perfect substitutes, perfect substitute they do not exist, but if there is a perfect substitute, then marginal rate of substitution will become constant. and due to which you have indifference curve, which is a downward sloping straight line, not a convex shape curve. You see the diagram that you have drawn there? Because I'm giving up as much of y as I'm increasing the consumption of x, y, because they both are perfect substitute. Whereas in case of perfect complementary goods, what are perfect complementary goods? Tea and sugar are complement, they are not perfect complements. Car and petrol, car and petrol are perfect complements. Pen and ink are perfect complements. Right? One thing you cannot consume without another. In that case, how do you think the indifference curve will look like? Indifference curve will look like an L-shaped curve. Why? Because if I take here petrol consumption and the kilometers driven in terms of car, if I'm at this point, then I'm putting in, let's say, 10 liters of petrol and I'm able to drive my car for, let's say, 100 kilometers. If I want to drive the car to 200 kilometers, do you think 10 liters will be sufficient? No. Then I have to increase the petrol from 10 to 20 liters. If I want to drive the car to 300 kilometers, then I have to increase it here to 30 liters. It means as much as I want to go to the right side, I can only do that by going up on the y-axis. Correct? So if I want to increase the mileage for the car, then I have to put in more petrol. If I decrease the petrol, it means the distance traveled will have to come down. So it will be L-shaped curve, which shows two goods are perfect complements. Then we came to the concept of consumer equilibrium from the perspective of indifference curve. What is consumer equilibrium? First of all, budget line concept, you remember, very easy concept. A budget line shows the total expenditure incurred by the consumer on either one commodity or a combination of two commodities. Correct? So when the price changes, the budget will also change. Every point on the same budget line will show you same amount of total expenditure. But if your expenditure is same, that doesn't mean that the satisfaction is also same. Expenditure is same, satisfaction may be different. How we know that? Because if we draw indifference curve around it, this is your IC1, this is your IC2, and this is your IC3. Don't you think if I point out here A, B, C, D, and E. Now one thing is sure that all the points A, B, C, D, E, it's one more, IC4, and this is your point F. All the points A, B, C, D, E, not F, they lie on the same budget line. So can I say I'm spending the same amount of money? Yes. But can I say all the points give us same satisfaction? No, because these points lie on different indifference curve. I can say A and D give me same satisfaction, but B and C will give me higher satisfaction and E will give me the highest possible satisfaction. Now tell me logically, if there is a way I can increase my satisfaction without increasing my expenditure, don't you think I will try to do that? All right. So just by mixing and matching the goods, I will be able to jump from a lower to a higher indifference curve, lower to a higher indifference curve. So I am able to push up my satisfaction by jumping from a lower to a higher indifference curve by spending by not spending anything extra. So point E gives me highest possible satisfaction. Highest satisfaction point F will give me. But highest possible, why? Because any point outside the budget line shows overspending. That is not a possibility. So that's why highest possible satisfaction is point E. This is the point wherein a consumer is said to be at equilibrium. So equilibrium is a point wherein consumer is deriving, number one, the maximum possible satisfaction. It is the point wherein the price line or budget line is tangent to the highest possible indifference curve, that is at point E. And that telephone example, you remember now I have explained to you, right? So how by changing the combination you can jump from you can increase your satisfaction, you can jump from a lower to a higher indifference curve. At this point E, we say that the slope of the price line is equal to the slope of the indifference curve, isn't it? Equals to slope of indifference curve. Or we can also write this by an equation, mu of x which depends on the price of x is equals to mu of y which depends upon the price of y. Clear hai? Clear. That ends our concept of demand. Now in case of supply, first of all, remember again one more thing with demand and supply. Both demand and supply are flow concept. They are not stock concept, because law of demand talks about the changes in quantity demanded, and law of supply talks about the changes in quantity supplied due to change in price. So flow concept tells us what is the change in the aggregate between two different points in time. Correct. And both are qualitative concept, not quantitative. Why qualitative? Because the law of demand, let's say, only tells you when the price increases, the quantity demanded will decrease. But by how much it will decrease, does it tell you? No. You can measure the change, but only after the change has already taken place. You cannot measure the change beforehand. If I tell you that, discount everything, on Flipkart, there'll be discount on electronics available from tomorrow, 50% discount. Tell me what will happen. You will say, sir, the demand for electronics will increase. If I ask you, tell me by how much? Will it increase by 50%, 60%, 200%? Can you tell me a figure? The answer is no. You can calculate the change after the change has already taken place. So both the law of demand and law of supply tells you only the direction of change. Increase, the other decrease. But by how much increase and how much decrease, the law doesn't define. So that's why both are also qualitative concept. Now also supply, remember, production is not equal to supply. So supply is the goods which are offered for sale at a particular price during a particular point in time. Because if the price is not right, the sellers will not be willing to supply what they had previously decided to supply. I produced something at rupees 100. I was willing to sell at rupees 120. The market price falls down to let's say 110. It's not that I'll not sell everything, but if I wanted to sell 1 lakh units, now I'll sell only 50,000 units or 60,000 units. I will hold remaining units because I need to cover my cost of production as well. No, I have to pay salaries and wages to everybody. Right. But and when the price increases, then I will sell more of it. So stock is not supply, production is not supply, stock available for sale or goods offered for sale is supply. So law of supply brings out a positive or direct relationship between price and quantity supplied. It says what? Price increases, so quantity supplied will increase. Now why price increases, quantity supplied will increase? It means people are willing to pay a higher price. That's why the price is increasing. The sellers do not increase the price unless people are fighting for it. Correct? Don't you think if demand for electric cars fall down by 30%, do you think they will supply more? No, the price will come down. So price will come down, supply will come down. But right now demand for electric vehicles is increasing. So that's why price is also increasing, because the sellers know that now people are demanding and they're willing to pay a high price. Let's charge them high price. And so the quantity supplied will also increase. Clear? So positive slope hota hai. And remember, in case of expansion and contraction, you have different situation here. Now, in a positive slope of the supply curve, you have P0 here and Q0 here. When the price increases from P0 to P1, the quantity supplied will increase from Q0 to Q1. So now when you're moving up the slope, it is causing expansion. They are moving down the slope. In case of demand was causing expansion, here moving up the slope. So price increases, quantity supplied is increases, you move up the slope. Moving up the slope means expansion. When price decreases from P0 to P2, the quantity supplied will decrease from Q0 to Q2. You move down the slope. In case of down the slope, in case of supply, in case of demand was expansion. But here down the slope is contraction. There you move up the slope. Demand कब में क्या था? You move up the slope, less quantity, no? So contraction. Here you move up the slope, expansion. Right? So you have to be careful with this thing. Right? Then I've told you that law of supply will not work in certain cases. What cases were those? In case of land, will it work? Price of land increases. कहाँ से supply करें? मार्च से लेके आएगा. Land has indestructible power. It can neither be created nor it can be destroyed. Antique goods. You cannot have one more Mona Lisa painting. Correct. So in that case, in case of perishable goods, in the short run, demand supply cannot be increased. That's why the price of demand, price of perishable goods are very, very volatile. Because demand increases, price increases, supply you cannot increase. So because tomato price increased hua tha na, do you think why it is volatile? Because if the price of toothpaste, have you heard ever that price of toothpaste has increased by 200%? No. Why? Because when the demand increases, price increases, seller will increase. The demand and supply mismatch is not there. But in case of perishable goods, suddenly supply will fall down or suddenly demand will rise. Clear? So on the supply side, I cannot control anything, and that's why it's volatile. So it will not work out in case of perishable goods in the short run. And again, elasticity is same for all those cases. 5 diagrams you will get. E more than 1, equals to 1, less than 1, infinite and 0. Any problem in that case, tell me. With regard to that, only reverse of the diagram. So we'll move on to the most important part of that thing, that is equilibrium. Very important. Numerous questions you are going to get from there. Now in case of equilibrium, this is the supply, this is the demand curve, and this is the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity demanded and supplied both. Correct? So the market is at equilibrium, but the market will not always remain at equilibrium. Market will keep falling in between equilibrium and disequilibrium, keep falling and keep rising. Now what happens? Let's say the price is falling down. When the price falls down, due to competition, the seller will have to give discount, right? But when they have to give discount, do you think they will increase their supply? No, they had overproduced, that's why they had to give you discount. So as a result, what will happen? The point here, if I mark, you see, the quantity supplied has fallen down from Q to QS1. But we know that when the price is falling down, the quantity demanded increases from Q to QD1. At this point, E, quantity demanded and supplied was the same. So with the fall in price, we know the law of demand says that you move down on the slope of the demand curve, so quantity demanded is increased, and you move down on the slope of the supply curve, but here quantity supplied decrease. So there is a mismatch between demand and supply. Correct? Now whenever there is such a mismatch that happens in the market, whenever there is a mismatch between demand and supply, wherein demand is more than supply, then what will happen? You tell me. Do you think the pressure on the price will be up or down? Pressure on the price is up. Demand is higher because as the price fell down, sellers were forced to give discount. So they will decrease their supply further. New small sellers will not be able to sustain this kind of pressure. They'll be wiped out of the market. New sellers do not enter the market. The supply is falling down. But because discount is given, demand is going up. At some point in time, the sellers will realize whatever we are producing there, people are gobbling up. So they will slowly increase the price. Demand will fall down, but whatever they produce, they've been sold, so they will continue to increase the price. So with the rise in price, supply will continuously rise and demand will continuously fall. And in that process, they will again come to an equilibrium, but nobody has perfect knowledge about the market, so market will again go at this equilibrium. But only this time supply is more than demand. So what will happen when the demand is more than supply? The pressure on the price will be upward, and as the price go on increasing, what will happen? At this point, demand has fallen down from QD1 to QD2. Demand fallen down, because we know that when the price increases, we move up the slope on the demand curve, and moving up the slope of the demand curve means decrease in quantity demanded or contraction. But what happened to supply? Supply goes from here to here. If I draw this, you see I've got the supply over here, QS2. So supply increases from Q to QS2, correct? So now what happened? At price P2, there is excess supply over demand. And whenever supply is more than demand, what will happen? The price will come down. Clear? Hai? But what if the price doesn't change at first? At first, the demand or supply changes. In that case, again from there 2 to 3 questions you will get shifting of the curve. So if I say that price demand is increasing and supply remaining constant, what will be its effect on price? So how to find out? If you remember correctly, bhul gaya ki yaad hai? Simply draw the demand and supply curve, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. Now demand is increasing, so I'll shift the demand curve towards the right. It hits the supply curve over here. So when I drop down a line here, we know that quantity is increasing and the price is also increasing. So you will choose that option which says that price increases and quantity also increases, and vice versa. When the demand decreases but supply remains constant, that price will fall, quantity will fall. But what if supply increases and demand remains constant? In this case, what will happen? So let's see, easy way out. So supply hai, demand hai, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. Supply increases now. It means rightward shift or leftward shift? Rightward shift. So I'll shift the supply curve toward the right. Where does it hit the old demand curve? Over here. So quantity we know is increasing, but price is decreasing. So you choose the option which says quantity increases and price decreases, and vice versa. When supply decreases, it means quantity will decrease and price will increase. But most of the time they'll ask you from this particular thing, they keep asking this question, that what happens if both demand and supply increase? If they don't give you any other information, and what did I tell you? Either demand increases or supply increases or both increases, quantity will always increase. That's why we call it a determination of price, because price will be, you have to find out. If the demand and supply, they both increase by the same margin, then price will remain constant, quantity will increase. If demand increases more than supply, then again quantity will increase, but price will also increase. If supply increases more than demand, again quantity will increase, but the price will decrease. So let's take an example here. All three, let's quickly take it. So supply curve, demand curve, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. If I increase the supply, let's say by 10%, and increase the demand also, let's say by the same margin 10%. So you see, price remains constant and quantity increases. Correct? If I increase demand more than supply, this is supply, this is demand, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. If let's say I increase demand by 20% and increase supply by 10%. So new demand and supply curve, they intersect over here. So you see what happens, quantity is increasing and price is also increasing. But what if supply increases more than demand? The other quantity will increase in all the three cases: supply, demand, equilibrium price, equilibrium quantity. Now I increase supply by a bigger margin, let's say by 20%, and increase demand by 10%. So what happens now? Quantity is again increasing, but price is decreasing. So if they give you a blanket question, both demand and supply is increasing, what effect will it have on price and quantity? You choose the option which says that quantity will increase but price cannot be determined, because you have not told me whether demand increases more than supply or less than supply or equal to supply. Same logic when the demand and supply both, they will fall down. Same logic. And when the demand or supply is perfectly elastic, this is your demand curve now. So price will remain constant in all the cases. No, this was your supply curve. So if supply increases, quantity will increase, price remains constant. If supply decreases, quantity will again decrease, but price remains constant. Clear? Hai? So this ends your concept of uh, demand and supply and theory of consumer behavior. Now third chapter, theory of production. Theory of production. When you want break? Now you want 1 o'clock? No, yeah. Theory of production. All right. Under theory of production, first of all, I'll not go into the simple thing that what kind of goods are land, labor, and everything that is done. I'll not go into that. Production function is important there. So remember, production function talks about physical input and physical output. Is the relationship between input and output. How many, hey, quite right. How many quantity of output can be produced with the given quantities of input? Holding technology as constant, whether in the short run or long run, the technology is assumed to remain constant. Now why do we call it physical input and physical output? Because at what cost I'm buying it, that is a consideration in the cost function, not in the production function. And at what price I'm going to sell the output, that is a consideration in revenue function, not again in production function. So we have to simply measure that how many units of electricity, 10 units, 20 units, how many labor hour and everything is going as an input, and what is the total output. So physical input and physical output. Clear? So production function has been defined, again, short run and long run concept was given by Alfred Marshall according to not time period. Time is used only as a metaphor there. Meaning I can start a production or business today and even after 10 years I remain in the short run. Somebody else may start a business today, in less than 1 year he may jump from short run to long. So long run and short run is defined according to the inputs. How many inputs, are they all variable or at least one input is fixed? In the short run we say that at least one factor input in the production function remain constant, other can vary. In the long run we say that everything becomes variable. Short run production function is also known as law of variable proportion, law of diminishing marginal return, or law of returns to factor. They all mean one and the same thing. Now, why do we call it law of variable proportion? Because we find out that by keeping the fixed input constant, if I only change the variable input, then the output first increases at an increasing rate, then increases at a diminishing rate, and then it begins to fall down. Why do we call it law of diminishing marginal return? Because eventually the marginal return, here marginal return is what? Marginal product. Eventually it is going to fall down. Clear hai? That Caesar example, if you remember. And diagram is very important here. So diagram, if you remember, along the x-axis we have taken, open the diagram in your book, variable input, and along the x-axis we have taken production, that is nothing but output. And we had 3 stages, if you remember. All right, so this is your TP, this is your AP, and this is the MP. Now this is your stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. This is the point. This point is known as point of inflection. Why do we call it point of inflection? Point of inflection, remember, is a point on the TP curve where MP is maximum, because from this point the MP begins to fall down. It means diminishing return will begin from here. But stage 1 still we call it as a stage of increasing return, because significant increase in output has happened at this stage. Now you see here, if you compare, you see this is the total output increases. Output is increasing by this much, correct? And what is the total input that I put in the production function? This much is the variable input. So can I say output increases in a relatively greater proportion? Relatively means comparison. Comparison with what? With regard to variable input. So I'm increasing the variable input by 10%, but the output is increasing by 15, 16, 18%. So I am at an increasing returns. Clear? And you see, come to this stage, what happens now? From here to here, this is the increase in output. But what is the relative increase in input? This much is the increase in input. So now tell me, don't you think now input is increasing at a relatively bigger margin, but output is increasing at a smaller margin? I am more benefited or less benefited? Less benefited. So it means we are now at the stage of diminishing return. So eventually what happens initially, why this happens? Initially you bought a machine. That machine can give you 10,000 units of output. Till the time you reach 5,000, 6,000, that is great unused capacity is there in that machine. So it will give you significant upside. All right, if you increase your input by 10%, 20%, 30%, the output may increase by 40%, 50%, 60%, 70%, because of better utilization of fixed input and division of labor as well. Because when you're producing more, your labor is also repeatedly doing the same thing, so they will be taking lesser time. So lesser time, but same wage they are getting. So it means they are giving lesser time, producing more, but I have to pay the wage at the same rate. So it means labor efficiency is also increasing, so it is benefiting. So as a result, my output, I'll go on increasing and increasing. But Let's say I reached 9,000 units of output in that machine, only 1,000 is left. Don't you think now my machine has not that much of capacity left? I have to struggle to take that 1,000 out from that machine. So as a result, my variable input that I'll put in will increase. Same lime example I've told you. आप एक machine लिया, initially you chop a lime and put it inside. Don't you think little bit of pressure will get more lime efficiently? But the remaining 10% to squeeze out from that lime, don't you have to struggle 3 times, 4 times the force, and you will get little this much? Same thing happens over here. So eventually, when you reach the maximum potential of that machine, you cannot go beyond that. If you try to go beyond that, then what will happen? The machine will break down. You cannot overutilize, only optimally utilize a fixed asset. So as a result, MP will become negative and TP will begin to fall down. Clear? And those 3 stages that I've told you, in stage 1, TP is increasing at an increasing rate due to increasing returns to factor. MP increases, reaches its maximum point and also begins to fall down. AP also increases and reaches its maximum point at this stage. So it means stage 1 mein MP and AP both have reached its maximum point. Clear? And stage 2, and remember also, till that time AP has a positive slope, MP is more than AP. So when AP is increasing, if they ask you when AP is increasing, what can be said about the MP? It means MP is over the AP. You cannot say increasing or decreasing, but MP is over the AP. When AP is rising, MP is more than AP. But when AP is falling or AP has a negative slope, then MP is less than AP. Alright. Diminishing return begins from the point where MP starts to fall down. But still we call stage 1 as a stage of increasing return. In stage 2, and remember here, when AP is maximum, at the same point MP cuts the AP curve. So at the point where AP is maximum, MP equals to AP. At that point, none of them are changing. There was a one question that we covered, none of them, because either AP or MP changes, then they will not be the same. So none of them are changing at this point. And at the end of stage 2, TP also reach its maximum point. Correct? Alright. At the end of stage 2, MP becomes 0 at the same point where TP is maximum. If we go further into stage 3, then MP becomes negative and TP is falling down. Whereas AP can neither be negative nor it can be 0. MP curve cuts AP curve from above. Cost में नीचे से average cut करता है marginal को. Correct? Cost में marginal cost cuts the average from below. But production में marginal cuts the average from above. These things you have to keep in mind. Now in the long run, every factor input in the production function becomes variable. There are no fixed factors. Treated variable. They may be fixed, but the treatment is variable because now as I'm increasing my output, increasing my production, I'm putting more and more machinery. So I have to consider them or treat them as variable as well. So in this case, you have 3 stages. What are the 3 stages? Remember, if this is your marginal product and this is your factor inputs. Now here I'm not taking variable input, I'm taking all input because everything is variable. And we see when marginal product is rising, it means TP must be increasing at an increasing rate. Then marginal product is constant. It means TP is increasing at a constant rate, and then marginal products falls down. So this is known as increasing returns to scale, constant returns to scale, and diminishing returns to scale. All right. If we look at the table, it's even easy. It becomes even more easier. So let's say this is your input. This is the output. This is marginal product. When I put 10 units of input, I was getting 200 units of output. Here's nothing. When I increase the input to 20, output increases to 500 units. So don't you think if 10 input was giving me 200, 20 should give me 400, right? But don't you think doubling the input has more than doubled the output? It means, am I at a stage of increasing return or constant or diminishing return? Increasing return. So, and how can I also say 500 minus 200, that is 300, divided by 20 minus 10 is 10. So here marginal product is 30. Now, if I produce 30 units, you see from here to here, it has increased by 300. But what if increases to 900 here? Then what is my marginal product? Don't you think it is now 40? So can I say when MP is increasing, it is adding more value to TP than before? So TP must be increasing at increasing rate. And when TP is increasing at an increasing rate, because MP is increasing, I am getting increasing returns to scale. Likewise, if I put in 40 here, from here to here, it has increased by 400. But what if increases to 5 by 500 now? So 1400. Now what is my marginal product here? That is 50. So still TP is increasing at a increasing rate. But if now I put in 10 more units of input and output increases to 1900. Now what is the case? Output is increasing, but MP isn't it constant? 1900 minus 1400 is 500 divided by 10. So that is 50. So it means, can I say here MP is constant? So it is adding. MP is constant doesn't mean that it doesn't add. It is adding, but the same value as before. So can I say TP will increase at a constant rate? So TP increases at a constant rate. So you have constant returns to scale. Correct. But what if I increase to 60 and it increases to 2300 only? Now what is the increase? 400 only. What is the marginal product? 40. So can I say from here to here MP is falling down? It is positive, but it is falling down. Positive, it means it will add more to TP, but add more than before or less than before? Less than before. So initially, previously it added 50, now it is adding 40. So when MP decreases but it remains positive, it means TP is increasing but at a diminishing rate. So you have diminishing returns to scale. All right. But that's what here you get. Where you will get negative when this falls down and MP becomes negative, it means TP begins to fall down rather than increasing. That will be the stage of negative returns to scale. Clear? So remember, they will ask you this: if this is your input and this is your output, if I increase the input by 100% and output increases by 110%, then you have increasing returns to scale. All right. Now, why do you get increasing returns to scale? Who can tell me? Due to labor specialization, due to if you are producing large number of units, you get better discount from the for the purchase of raw material. Your fixed inputs will be used in a fixed input are treated variable, but they are fixed input. So it means better utilization of all the resources. Clear? And external, this is known as what? Internal economies. External economies, better government policy, better infrastructure, adequate availability of uh, you know uh, qualified labor. So increasing returns to scale. If input increases by 100% and output also increases by 100%, then you have constant returns to scale, which is the turning point. Our concern is increasing return and diminishing return. And if input increases by 10%, but output doesn't decrease, mind it here. Here they try to create a trap for you. Output increases, but by 80%. It is not falling down, it is increasing, but in relatively lower proportion than the increase in input. Then you have diminishing returns to scale. So because you see, in all these cases there is a positive relation between input and output. Only when you have negative relation between input and output, then only you get to the stage of negative returns. If input increases by any percentage, let's say by 10%, 100%, output decreases by 5% or any percentage. So there is now negative relation between input and output. Businesses who go into bankruptcy, क्या हो रहा है? Negative stage में ही है ना, जितना पैसा लगा रहा सब खत्म, छोटा भाई. So you have negative returns to scale. So mind it, output increases at a diminishing rate is not negative, it is diminishing return. Output decreases with the increase in input, that is a stage of negative returns. Clear? Now, yeah. Any question here? No. All right. Clear hai? Next. Cost concept mein. Now, under the cost concept, you have to know what are the different types of cost. Different types of cost. Categorization क्या है? Explicit cost and implicit cost पे हमेशा question आता है. What is an explicit cost? Also known as accounting cost. What is that cost? जो cost आप सारा account में पढ़ा वो सब explicit cost. That is paid to an outsider, which can be recorded in the books of account. An outsider is also known as a third party. An outsider is also known as a non-owner. Employee in a business is a non-owner. Bank giving to loan and interest I have to pay. Bank is a non-owner. Electricity I consume, I have to pay to Bescom. Bescom is not owning my business. So non-owner, a third party. So all the costs that I can record in my trial balance, that I show in my trading account and PL account, they all are known as accounting cost or explicit cost. But there is implicit cost or non-accounting cost. Without taking that into consideration, a businessman will never be able to determine what its actual gain, cost and benefit actual kitna hai. You will not be able to get it. So how can we know that? What is the implicit cost? You have to look at the opportunity cost. Implicit cost is also known as non-accounting cost, alternate cost. All right. You are doing some work as a CA. You are earning 20 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees in a year. You gave up that work and started your own business. From your business, you made a profit of 50 lakh rupees. But is truly the profit is 50 lakh? Yes, you can count in your hand is 50 lakh. But don't you think you gave up 30 lakh to earn this 50 lakh? It means you are losing 30 to earn 50. Actually, you have made only 20 lakh. Now, in the books of account, these implicit costs are not shown. So when the businessman has to do a cost and benefit analysis, they have to take this implicit cost into this consideration. You purchased an equity share, and in 1 year, that equity share gave you a return on investment of, let's say, 8%. But is the return 8%? No, the return is 3%. 5% जो बैंक का FD दे रहा था आपको ना, we withdraw from the bank, you're losing out 5% on FD. You are winning 8% on equity. So actually you're gaining 8%, you're gaining 3%. You're gaining only 3%. So implicit cost have to be taken into consideration. So if you look at economic cost, Economic cost includes both accounting cost and non-accounting cost. Both accounting costs are known. Accounting cost is known as explicit cost. Non-accounting cost is known as implicit cost. So in order to get the economic profit from the total revenue, whatever it is, you have to deduct first the accounting cost, and deduction of accounting cost will give you accounting profit or loss. And then from this accounting profit and loss, only when you deduct implicit cost, then you will get the economic profit and loss. Correct? And those four things I've told you, I've shown you. Do you need clarification with that thing? Easy, no? So when you have implicit cost, your economic profit will always be lower than accounting profit. When you have no implicit cost, then your economic profit will be equal to your accounting profit. And when your implicit cost is more than your accounting profit, then you will have economic loss. And if your implicit cost is equal to your accounting profit, you have zero economic profit, and zero economic profit is also known as normal accounting profit. These were the four things that we have covered. Now, rest of the cost, all that we have to discuss, they all are explicit cost. They can be divided into direct cost and indirect cost. Abhi direct cost kya hai? That you have paid directly for any particular goods or services that you have produced. It means you can allocate this cost directly to a particular commodity or a particular service. If I'm producing this pen in my factory, then the machine that is consuming electricity is a direct cost. Carriage inward is a direct cost. That's why you show in the trading account. But carriage outward comes after the production has already taken place. That is a part of distribution. So you show it in the PL account. Correct? Alright. But I need to market this pen. So factory से बहुत दूर में मेरा एक office भी है, where people with MBA, CAs and other people with specialized knowledge, they are trying to explore opportunities to push this pen in the market, increase its sales. Now in that building, air conditioning cost is there. I bought many computer peripherals, uska cost hai. I have to pay salary. They all are indirect cost. Why? Because they are not performing one particular activity as a worker in a factory who is running the machine. They are doing what? They are running the in entirety the general administration of the business. So all those are indirect costs. Then the cost comes broadly categorization into all the costs that we study about here now. As I've told you, they all are explicit cost. Direct cost, indirect ho gaya. Fixed cost and variable. What is the difference? Fixed cost is difficult to change in the short run. So whether you increase your output or decrease your output, the same amount of fixed cost you will incur. Even my output is zero, same amount of fixed cost I have to incur. I've taken a promise on rent. Now, whether I produce 10,000 units or 10 lakh units, I don't have to pay more rent. Correct? I've taken a loan to run my business. The bank says that 12% interest business loan diya. Now, whether I don't produce or produce huge amount of quantity, the bank is not going to change the rate of interest. The same amount of interest as agreed upon when I have taken the loan, I have to pay to the bank. So they all are considered as fixed costs. Neither they will increase nor they will decrease in the short term with the increase or decrease in the level of output. Whereas variable cost, it varies. It varies with the changes in the output. If I'm decreasing my level of output, producing less because the demand has fallen down. At peak, I needed 100 labor in my factory. Now the demand has fallen down by 50%. Will I employ 100 labor? No. I'll say 50 labor, go home, retrench kar दूंगा. देखा ना many businesses. Alright. So their production fell down. They are paying same rent. They're paying same. They cannot say बाइजू एक बिल्डिंग में है, बोलेगा मैं सैलरी रिटेंच करेगा, मैं रेंट नहीं देगा. वो बोलेगा मैं बाइजू को नहीं जानता, रेंट नहीं दिया भागो. So whether Baiju makes profit or loss, they have to pay the same rent. Correct. Whether I'm teaching 100 students in the classroom or only one student, personal tuition, do you think the owner is going to worry about, will I say to the owner, एक student था, rent 99% less कर दो? He will not understand, and neither he will ask me more rent when the number of students increase. Right? Variable cost will change. If there are more students, more electricity consumption, more printing cost, I have to hire more labor, more everything. So it will increase or decrease with the level of work. Semi-variable cost is a hybrid cost. It has element of both fixity and rigidity. It means what? Up to a certain point of output, when it increases, it will remain fixed. Beyond that level, if output increases, then the variable cost will increase. For example, telephone connection, electricity bill, water charges, hota hai na? Even if you consume zero, minimum fixed charges you have to pay. Alright. Now, all the costs that we study here will have some or other the diagram. Now, look at the table that I've drawn, that you have drawn. First was the fixed cost, correct? In case of fixed cost, what did I tell you? You get a straight line, horizontal line. Now this is the quantity of output and this is the cost. If I'm incurring rupees 1000 as my fixed cost, so whether I produce 0 unit or I produce 10 units or I produce 20 units or 30 units, doesn't matter. The quantity is increasing, but fixed cost is not increasing like this. It means TFC is constant. This is the only diagram which is a horizontal straight line. No other diagram you will get horizontal straight line. Fixed cost remains constant in the short run. It doesn't increase nor it decrease. And also remember the origin question they keep asking. Fixed cost can never begin from the origin. Why? If fixed cost begins from the origin, it means what I'm assuming? I'm assuming when output is 0, fixed cost is 0. Is it a possibility? It is never a possibility. Clear? Alright. Then comes total variable cost. All the problems, I mean all the complexity, not the problem, in the concept of cost is created due to the variable cost. Because unlike in many books you will find variable cost is shown this way, this is not the correct diagram. Why not the correct diagram? Because if I mention here cost and here output, it means there is a perfect or proportional relationship between input and output. Meaning what? I was producing 10 units, I incurred 100 rupees. I am producing 20 units, it increases to 200. I am producing 30 units, increases to 300. Does it increase in the same proportion? The answer is no. In fact, initially it will increase in lesser proportion, then it increases in greater proportion. So you will find that total variable cost diagram you see, it goes like this. First of all, it begins from the origin. Why? When output is 0, TVC is 0. It will increase slowly and then it will rise sharply. So initially you see I produce 1 unit with, let's say, rupees 200 income, but second unit I am producing, I am incurring only 300. It increases not, because if one I am producing for 200, two I should produce for 400, but two I am incurring only 300. So it means what is happening here, initially due to better utilization of fixed input and division of labor, your variable cost will increase very slowly, but later on it will start to begin to rise very sharply. Now why does it happen? Due to law of variable proportion. We'll come to that when I'll come to the average. Then you have to connect it with the this the average diagram variable cost with the log variable proportion. So we have to understand here that TVC increases first at a diminishing rate and then at an increasing rate. Clear? Now when you go to the average of any cost is that particular cost divided by the level. Hey, what is happening, like? Alright. Average of any cost is to that particular cost divided by the output. Now if I want to find out average fixed cost, we know that TFC remains constant. You have to divide the TFC with the output. Now this TFC is not changing. As the output increases, don't you think you are changing the denominator? Correct? But are you increasing or decreasing? You are increasing. So when I keep the numerator constant and go on increasing the divisor, denominator, then don't you think the quotient will be falling down? Can it ever rise? No. So with the increase in the level of output, I am dividing the same value of total fixed cost by a higher number of output. So AFC will continue to fall down. It will be a downward sloping curve. But it will not be a downward sloping curve like this. Again, why? Because it becomes a proportion. It means if I draw a downward sloping curve, a straight line downward sloping curve, then what I'm saying here, if I'm incurring 1000 here and I'm producing 1 unit, if I'm producing 2 unit, I'm incurring 800. If I'm producing 3 unit, I'm incurring 600. It means with every 1 unit increase in output, my average fixed cost is falling down by the same margin, that is by 200. Is it a possibility? The answer is no. Mathematically, when you keep the numerator constant and go on increasing the denominator, initially the fall will be very sharp. Because if I take 1000 here is your total fixed cost and output here as 1, then your average fixed cost here is 1000. But if I keep it with 2, you see it falls down by 50%. But if I divide the same by 3, does it fall down by 500? No, 323. If I divide it by 4, it falls down to 200. So it means, you see, here the fall is very sharp and then the fall is slowly tapering off. So this will also be a curve which is a convex shape curve. This is your AFC. Alright. So AFC curve is a downward sloping curve because with the increase in the level of output, AFC decreases. But when you go to AVC, it is altogether a different story. Because why different story? Because you have to understand when any cost is increasing at a diminishing rate. If suppose any cost here the TVC increases at diminishing rate, क्या होगा? AVC will fall. And when TVC increases at increasing rate, then its AVC will increase. And this you can see in the table that we have drawn. देखो, initially AVC is falling down, and from the point that TVC begins to rise at an increasing rate, you see AVC is rising. Correct? So it means the AVC curve will be a U-shaped curve. It will initially fall, reach its minimum point, and then it will begin to rise. Clear? And this AVC, the U shape of the AVC is due to the law of variable proportion. Now, why is it due to the law of variable proportion? Let's take a look at it. First of all, let me draw only the TP curve here. I had taken variable input here, correct? Pay attention. And here is the output. And I had drawn the TP curve like this. Correct? All right. Now you see here, if I take this point here, up to the inflection point, right? You see, how much is the variable input? Let me have to do our correctly to work out. Otherwise, you will not get a perfect idea. No, this is perfect. So you see here, this is the variable input. B, I am writing variable input you are adding, and this is the output that you are getting. Now tell me, relatively less quantity of variable input is giving me more output. Correct or not? Is it a good thing or a bad thing? It's a good thing ना. कम input लगा के ज़्यादा produce किया because efficiency is better. So it's a good thing. But this variable input that I'm putting, I must have purchased it. So now think, less variable input is giving me more output. So I have to purchase less variable input to get more output. So purchase cost of variable input will be lower or higher? Will be lower. See, it means, don't you think the total variable cost will increase at a diminishing rate here? So can I say here that when TP is increasing at increasing rate, it means relatively less variable input gives more output, and relatively less variable input, it means less variable cost is incurred. So can I say total variable cost must be increasing at a diminishing rate? Bolo, think. This is extremely important. Look at it and think. Initially, less input is giving me relatively more output. It means less input cost. It means total variable cost increases at a diminishing rate. It means TVC, you are getting increasing returns to factor. Or when TVC is increasing at a diminishing rate, can I say AVC must be falling? Correct? Now later on, you see what happens. From this point to this point. Now this is your increase in output, the shaded area, and this is the variable input that I'm putting in. So don't you think I have to put in relatively more input, but my output is increasing at a lower proportion? Correct or not? So when I'm using more variable input, it means, am I incurring more variable cost or less variable cost? More variable cost, no. More input, less output. So more input cost. What input cost? Variable input है तो variable cost आएगा. Correct? So can I say here now that when TP increases at a diminishing rate, then relatively more variable input gives or increases output which is relatively less. So it means, don't you think my variable cost will increase at an increasing rate? TVC will increase at an increasing rate. So don't you think the average variable cost will also increase? and that's why ABC curve is a U-shaped curve due to law of variable proportion. So falling part of the ABC shows that TVC is increasing at a diminishing rate due to better utilization of resources. So it means TP is increasing at a increasing rate, MP is also increasing. So less variable input, more output. It means less variable cost. It means total variable cost is increasing at a diminishing rate, so average is falling down. And if ABC is rising, it means TVC is increasing at an increasing rate. It means I'm at the second stage wherein diminishing returns to factor is there. It means more variable input but less increase in output. It means more variable cost. So average variable cost will also increase. Correct? Now when I compare both ABC and AFC, what you get is ATC. Average total cost you can get in two ways. Either you divide the total cost by output or you add average variable cost plus average fixed cost. Now tell me one thing. When output is zero, correct? When output is zero, can fixed cost be zero? No. Right. Clear. So if fixed cost is not zero, average fixed cost will also not be zero. So there will always be some difference between ABC and AFC. Now, initially what happens? ABC falls down and AFC also falls down. So don't you think ATC will also fall down? Correct. Later on, don't you think as I'm producing more and more output, the AFC value will fall down to a very small amount, but ABC will start to rise. It means the bigger role is played by ABC now because TVC is increasing at a increasing rate. So ABC is rising. So ABC is rising more and AFC is falling less. So overall, ATC will increase. So ATC curve will also be a U-shaped curve. But when you have to compare, the question will be from the comparison of ATC, ABC. All right. We know that this is your ATC and this is your AFC. Now the difference between them is due to ABC. Sorry, ABC here. Difference is between due to AFC. The difference between them, correct? So initially, if you look at the table that you've drawn, AFC is having a higher value. But as you go on increasing the level of output, what happens to AFC? AFC comes falling down. So don't you think ATC and ABC curve will come closer to one another? But can AFC ever be zero? When AFC cannot be zero, it means these two curves will never touch one another. It can become very close to one another, but it will never ever touch one another. But if we look at the concept with regard to total cost and total variable cost, you see, if we take that into consideration, this is your fixed cost TFC, this is your TC, this is your TVC. Now, यहाँ पे confusion create करेगा. ABC and ATC curve, they will not be parallel lines because the difference between them is not due to TFC, the difference is due to AFC, and AFC is never constant because as I increase the output, I'm dividing the total fixed cost by a higher denominator, so AFC is going to fall. Can it remain constant? No. So when AFC cannot remain constant, so these two lines, the difference cannot be parallel. But if I compare TC and TVC, They will always be parallel lines. Why? Because the difference between TC and TVC is due to TFC. Let me erase this. Is due to TFC. Alright. Only difference between TC and TVC is that they begin from a different point. But the behavior of TC is same as TVC. Why? The reason is total cost is the aggregate of total variable cost plus total fixed cost. Total fixed cost remains always constant. So it means every penny change in the total cost is only due to TVC, no? And why TC curve begins from the same point as the TFC curve? Because when output is 0, then TVC will be 0. But can TFC be 0? No. So it means TC and TFC will have same value at 0 level. यही एक similarity है between TC and TFC. Otherwise there is no similarity. It has all the similarity with TVC because the change in the TC is only due to change in the TVC and this change remain constant. So TC and TVC curve will always be parallel lines. So after the break, we'll look at the marginal cost concept and then we'll move on to the fourth chapter. All right. So how long is the break? Half an hour, no? Okay. Break.